Let's start reading this goodness. Thank you, Lord Vader, for introducing part 8. Same outfit every time. Why? Why not? Let's go. Now, we've been talking about the magic bank. So, let us continue talking about the magic bank. Notwithstanding the fact that Magic Bank does not have any money to lend, Magic Bank makes the buyer or the borrower sign a mortgage loan application form, which is essentially a promissory note saying that the buyer or the borrower promises to pay Magic Bank for the money. What money? Exactly. Which he is supposed to receive from Magic Bank even before any value or consideration is received by the buyer or the borrower from Magic Bank. This promissory note is a valuable consideration, a receivable, and therefore an asset transferred from the buyer to the bank, which Magic Bank enters into its own asset account as a cash deposit. After making sure that the buyer has the ability to pay the required monthly payments, you must pay us, human. The buyer has credit, in other words. Magic Bank agrees to lend the buyer the money or the cash to pay the seller. Magic Bank has no money to lend, but it gave the buyer a promise to lend money by the way of a commitment letter or a loan approval letter or a loan authorization or a loan confirmation, etc. Signed, obviously, by a bank official or a loan and mortgage officer employed by Magic Bank. Magic Bank's acceptance of the buyer's promissory note makes the bank liable to the buyer and the borrower for the full face value of the promissory note, which is the agreed purchase price of the property. Of course, less any cash deposit or down payment money paid by the buyer directly to the seller. It is important to note at this point that all real estate transactions require that the property being sold must be conveyed by the seller to the buyer, free of all liens and encumbrances, which means that all liens such as existing mortgages, judgments, etc. must be paid before the property can be mortgaged by the buyer as collateral to the mortgage loan, which is yet to be received by the buyer pursuant to the promise made by Magic Bank. How can the seller pay off his mortgage and obtain clear title if he has not yet received any money from the buyer? And how can the buyer mortgage a property that does not yet belong to him? This dilemma is solved using Magic Bank's bag of tricks, Expelliarmus. Magic Bank, in concert with the bank's lawyers or notaries, causes all the liens and encumbrances to magically disappear by writing a Magic Bank check. It's backed by the buyer's promissory note and agreement of purchase and sale, and it's deposited into the lawyer's trust account to pay the seller for the property at closing. In essence, using the buyer's promissory note as the cash to enable the agreement of purchase and sale. So the buyer's promissory note made the conveyance possible. Magic Bank caused the property to be conveyed from the seller to the buyer with the title free and clear of all encumbrances and liens. The property now belongs to the buyer, which makes it possible for the buyer to mortgage his property to Magic Bank. The buyer actually paid for the property using his own promissory note. At this point, the seller has not yet received any money or cash, so Magic Bank and its magicians must perform more magic in order to satisfy the seller's requirement that he get paid, or the whole deal is null and void. The seller does not even know that the property has been magically conveyed to the buyer's name in order for the seller to receive any money. The ensuing magic trick is accomplished this way. The buyer is made to sign another promissory note. The mortgage contract is attached to the promissory note, which makes the buyer liable to pay Magic Bank for the money or the loan which the buyer has not yet or may never receive for up to 25 years or more, depending on the term of the mortgage contract. This note is linked to the collateral through the mortgage contract, and as such, it is valuable to the Magic Bank. Magic Bank then goes to the Federal Reserve Bank or to another bank to pledge the deal that they have just gotten from the buyer for credits. The Federal Reserve Bank then gives Magic Bank the credits. Remember, it is not Magic Bank's credit, it is the buyer's credit who promised to pay Magic Bank if and when the money is received by the buyer from Magic Bank, payable for up to 25 years or more. Wow. Now note, what happened above is basically a swap transaction all banks do to monetize security. In this case, the second promissory note that is linked to the mortgage contract and signed by the buyer is a mortgage-backed security. Magic Bank will then agree to pay the Federal Reserve Bank a certain percentage of interest over prime. Thus, the buyer's loan package goes to the Federal Reserve Bank, which credits Magic Bank with the full amount of credit, which is the total amount of the money Magic Bank is entitled to receive after 25 years, which is the amount of the principal plus all the interest payments the buyer has promised to pay to Magic Bank for 25 years or more, which is usually 3 times the amount of the money promised by Magic Bank to the buyer. By Magic Bank just enriched itself and got paid in advance without using or risking its own money. And there we have it. You're all getting shafted. And I'm here to tell you, expose that BS. Much love, and I will return, my royal ones, to continue the journey toward freedom through the Strawman. Freedom!